Lots happening right now in our region.
Perch patterns have been working really well.
The bite has been good.
Just keep snapping it off the bottom.
The down imaging, the side imaging. There's a lot of different variations and different ways to rig this.
Oh, yeah! Look at this giant.
They are heavy.
Oh, look at that.
On this week's show, we're talking the speed factor. This is AnglingBuzz TV. I'm Troy Lindner.
And I'm Al Lindner.
And we're pretty much in the middle of summertime right now. Things are heating up. And you think about the water column, that's a very important part of your presentation. You know, where your lure is, high, middle, bottom. But also important is speed.
Also a key thing to remember with speed, different fish at the same time you're on the water can react to a different speed. An example, you might be drop shotting for smallmouth bass. That's the only way you're going to get a bite. And up in shallow water, you might go musky fishing and you got a high-speed reel, and as fast as you can turn that handle is what it takes to trigger a bite. Speed is a key element, and it's often overlooked. You know, in a given day, on a lot of structures today, you can have 15 boats coming through that same school of fish. 14 boats came bang, bang, bang. You could be talking walleye, you could be talking bass, and they don't get a bite. The 15th boat comes through and he's coming with a different presentation at a different speed and lights up that school of fish. It happens all the time. If you fish a lot, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The key is speed much of the time.
Yes, it is. And right now, let's take a closer look at the speed factor.
No matter where you fish or which species you fish for, certain angling themes apply both close to home and around the globe. One such characteristic is the need for speed. Be it slow, fast, or somewhere in between, presenting lures at the right pace draws interest in the eye of a predator fish. And once the target is recognized and acquired, the chase is on and the end result inevitable. Fish are cold-blooded creatures whose body temperatures match those of the surrounding water, directly affecting their levels of activity. Sometimes, fish prefer slow-moving tactics, particularly when the water is cold. At other times, you need to pick up the pace to initiate the chase, making fish believe a fast-moving target is panicked, vulnerable, and fleeing for its very life. That's particularly true during the warm weather and water of summer, when cold-blooded fish become savage, hot-blooded hunters on the prowl. Presentation speed is a fundamental element of the angling equation. Depth is a primary factor, but then comes speed. Fish of all species change their mood dynamically, even throughout the course of the day. Most of the time, fish are in a neutral or even a negative feeding mood. When fish aren't positive, both ends of the speed spectrum can be used to elicit strikes. Angling success is directly associated with your willingness to experiment with speed. When fish aren't biting, many people may feel the best idea would be to change color, but often a far better choice is to change lure speed. Looking through any tackle box, you will find a wide array of lures. Some are designed to move fast with erratic behavior, while others are best suited for a slow bottom-hugging retrieve, and you'll find everything else in between. Believe it or not, it's easy to fish through a lot of fish and not catch them because your bait is simply moving at the wrong speed to trigger bites. The speed factor applies to every fish that swims. When you get it right, it's like turning on the light switch.
You know, from my experience, this has happened more than a few times. I'm going to move spots, I reel up really fast, and sure enough, I get bit, or a smallmouth or largemouth will chase it right to the boat. Well, there's my sign.
We all can relate to that. There's no question about it. You know, we got tackle boxes loaded with all kinds of different lures. And when we're not getting bit, what's the first thing we do? We change color, we change shape, we change size. Often the key is changing your speed. It's really that simple, and it's often one of the most overlooked triggers.
Yes, it is. Hey, after the short commercial break, we have our highlight destination feature and the first of our Buzz Bite reports as Angling Buzz continues.
If you're looking at this, how do you know it's not this? If you see this, how do you know it's not actually this? Trust your AquaView and you'll see the real underwater world. AquaView leads by innovation. First in high definition, first in handheld viewing, the finest underwater optics, the brightest, sharpest screens, the original underwater camera, and the fish finder that puts you on the fish.
Explore Alexandria, Minnesota. Whether it's a long weekend or a week-long loaded with family fun, you'll find plenty of things to do in Alex. Unleash your inner explorer with over 300 lakes, beaches, parks, hundreds of miles of trails, dining, golf, shopping, museums, and history. Alexandria is Minnesota's hidden gem. Go to explorealex.com to find your vacation this season.
Some lodges are just a cut above. Hawk Lake is one of those. They're the only Orvis-endorsed lodge in all of Ontario, and they're the 4-time finalists for the best Orvis lodge in all of North America. They feature cordon bleu trained chefs and offer some of the best freshwater fishing in the world. You can target trophy walleye, smallmouth bass, pike and lake trout on any of their 19 private lakes. Whether you fish with traditional gear or love fly fishing, Hawk Lake has you covered.
Welcome back to Angling Buzz. We have our highlight destination feature right now. We're going to Lake Vermilion, and you're pretty familiar with that place.
I love Lake Vermilion because of the different variety of fish that are in there, and they're biting all the time. I go to for crappie, smallmouth, largemouth walleyes, big northern pike, big giant muskies, even some huge bluegill. Now, the thing to remember, what I like about Vermilion, I can open up in the morning on a hot topwater bite for smallmouth. Come a late morning, early afternoon, I might go for walleyes on the deep water humps with a jig and wrap, and the evening bite, topwater bait or burning bucktails for big muskies. I love the variety, it's that simple.
Yeah, it's a big lake with a lot of big fish. It's actually the 5th largest lake in Minnesota and the focus of our highlight destination.
It may be the 5th in total number of acres in Minnesota, but it's number 1 in shoreline with an impressive 290 miles worth. That's a lot of bank to cast to, not to mention the untold numbers of reefs which walleye, pike, muskie, and smallmouth bass often inhabit. For a Canadian shield lake, Vermilion is quite fertile, with the nutrients and habitat to grow big fish. The numbers of larger walleyes have increased in recent years with a protected slot limit that was implemented over 10 years ago. Anglers and guys are seeing the results. There are still lots of eater walleyes for that famed shore lunch with a chance at a trophy too. Muskie fishermen looking for a trophy are finding Vermilion as one of their top destinations for a fish of a lifetime. Back in 2015, the Minnesota DNR's test netting recorded that 15% of muskies sampled were over 50 inches. Can you imagine how many big girls are out there now? Vermilion's rocky reefs and shorelines are made for smallmouth. These crayfish crunchers have lots of places to scrounge up a meal. Tubes, grubs, and bottom-bouncing cranks will often produce quite well. But smallies aren't always looking down. The early morning topwater bite can be explosive as well. Other species like largemouth bass and crappie don't receive the same amount of attention, but once you find them, it can be some hot action. There's a lot to do on and around Lake Vermilion for the whole family as well. One thing's for sure, if you're going to cruise the lake for the day, you better make sure to pack a big lunch because you're going to have a lot of water to cover. For accommodations, check out LakeVermilionResorts.com. There's tons of information on places to stay and things to do.
The Lake Vermilion is known for really big fish, but especially muskie.
That's what a lot of people go up there to chase. And after the fish come out of the spawn, they go out and they suspend for a period of time, and a lot of the guys that are in the know do a lot of trolling. And then after the water starts to warm up, you get some weed growth. A lot of those muskies migrate back in, and they get on the shallow water rocks and back into the weed beds. And that shallow water bucktail topwater bite can just be on fire. And this is a good time of the year for largemouth and smallmouth to be on the docks. Both largemouth and smallmouth. That's a fun way to fish when you're docking them there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And right now, we're going to join Nick Lindner with the first of our BuzzBite reports.
For our first report, let's check in with Jarek Wachowski up on Lake Vermilion.
Bugs are emerging left and right, so it's really crucial to optimize your early morning hours and then your dusk, your witching hours. The best bite for me as of late has been on the shallow rocks. I like to stick in that 12 to 20 foot range, and big leeches or half a crawler under a slip bobber is kind of the way to go right now. During, as the sun gets a little bit higher, you want to start to key in on your sand to mud transitions in that 20 to 30 foot range. Your muskie bite has been very good too. In the last 4 or 5 days, with all the hex larvae coming up, you have this influx of whitefish and tulibees rising to the surface right at dusk and into your nighttime hours. So your open water bite for muskie is definitely the way you want to go. Trolling big matlocks, headlocks has kind of been the ticket as of late. And I'm also starting to see quite a few muskies starting to show up on your structure as well as your smallmouth too. Smallies are transitioning on the secondary structure too, so anywhere you find big scatter boulders should be a good time.
Next up, let's head over to the Duluth Superior area where Jared Houston's been dealing with flood conditions.
The St. Louis River and Lake Superior both got terrible mud. It's a big mess, man. There's lots of hazards, lots of lumber. You really got to be careful when you're going out on the boat. So we've been taken to the inland lakes, which we also have problems. We have lots of flooding going on around here too. And the big gray silver lining of this whole deal is that we got a lot of feeder creeks that are spewing organic matter into the lakes. So if you concentrate on those areas, you're going to find yourself a diversity of different multi-species. Smallmouth, walleyes, pike, largemouth, of course. That is where we're going, and we're using worms, we're using leeches, and we're using minnows. We got all here today, and so it's been a great day. It's been a great week, actually, with that being said, with how we're going. So take care. We'll see you later on the water. Bye.
Thanks, Jared. Now don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we have more BuzzBite reports to come as Angling Buzz continues.
Sportfish Michigan is your #1 source for top charter captains and fishing guides in Michigan. Our network of professionals are full-time anglers with years of experience providing customers with the best possible fishing trip services. Fish for trout, salmon, steelhead on Lake Michigan or its famous tributary rivers, the Traverse City area's world-class smallmouth bass, walleye fishing on the Detroit River and Saginaw Bay, or northern Michigan's spectacular ice fishing. We do it all. Sportfish Michigan. Get out. Get bit.
According to Minnesota's Department of Natural Resources, in 2017, 97% of boaters surveyed by watercraft inspectors followed Minnesota's Clean, Drain, Dispose laws. Let's keep it this way. Clean aquatic plants and animals from boats, trailers, and equipment. Drain all water from watercraft, including the motor, and keep drain plugs out during transport. Dispose of unused bait properly. Together, we're preventing the spread of aquatic invasive species in Minnesota.
Lake Vermilion. Explore. Relax. Reconnect.
Minnesota's most beautiful lake.
Get hooked on our trophy walleye,
That's a beauty.
bass,
My favorite fish.
musky fish,
That's a beauty there.
Things to do? You'll never get bored.
Rooms with a view? We got 'em.
Lake Vermilion. 4 seasons of fun. I got one!
Welcome back to Angling Buzz. For our next report, we're going to check in with veteran guide Brian Brosdahl up on Leech Lake.
Well, the bite's been on. It's tapered a little bit with the mayfly hatch. Water temperatures in the 70s, up and down depending on what time of day. Obviously, the best time to take it's in the morning. The bite's been in 8 to 14 feet of water on the rocks and sometimes on the weed edge. You find those weed edges and there's walleyes. Hit the windswept points also. Rock runner bottom bouncer and a butterfly blade. You can use them at a slower speed with a full crawler or a chunk crawler, or even just go with a single hook and a leech or a fathead works just fine. But if you don't want a bottom bounce and you want to pitch a fireball spinner jig, the fireball spin is awesome. I'll pitch those with a chunk of crawler. And then of course one of my old staples here on Leech Lake you could troll or pitch. Thumper head with a spinner. It's got the little wire to hold your crawler on. And then last but not least, and this is just a few things here, is the whistler head. The whistler jig with a chunk of crawler and you're in business. Pitch or troll the rocks on Leech Lake and you'll be set. We'll see you on the water.
Now for another walleye report, let's check in with Joe Segura in the Alexandria region.
This past week we've been doing really well on walleye and sunfish. Just fishing the outside weed edge, and if you can find some open areas in the weeds, that's a sand bottom. Those have been doing very well. Walleyes and bluegills up to 8-9 inches. Seems like just about every lake has those, a good population 8-9 inch bluegills, so it's just an added bonus when you're in there fishing walleyes. Walleyes are running 15-20 inches with a good number of oversized fish. 25-29 inch fish has been kind of a commonplace here, which is a great thing to say. Best of both worlds, good eaters, some big picture fish, and then a nice extra bag of nice bluegills to go with your day. It's tough to beat that. Just fishing the outside weed edge at a Lindy rig. If you don't know where those small areas are, pull spinner blades along until you pop a couple fish, and then you can slow down with a Lindy rig presentation, and then just kind of sit on those fish and you'll have a great day.
For our next report, let's head over to northern Wisconsin where Jeff Evans has been chasing walleye.
We've had a lot of rain in our area recently. Unfortunately, Chequamegon Bay, Lake Superior, and the St. Louis River are really tough to fish right now due to all the muddy water that's poured in there. But we are on a really good walleye bite in the Hayward Lakes area. It's a classic and typical pattern for this time of year. We're finding fish on the first weed edge. On stained water lakes, it's been around 6 to 8 feet of water. Clear water lakes, it's been around 15 to 18 feet of water. We pull up to that first weed edge and throw a Weedmaster jig tipped with a minnow in there, and we'll also drift a leech on a slip bobber rig along those weed edges. We're catching a lot of fish. The bite's been really good and really consistent. Water temperatures are in the mid-70s on most of our lakes.
Now let's see what the latest hot bite is in Michigan.
Hi, I'm Captain Shad Dancer with Sportfish Michigan. We're in the first week of July, and this is an awesome time to get out and do some light tackle vertical jigging for both lake trout and salmon. You know, ports like Grand Traverse Bay, Northport, Manistee, even Frankfort have really steep structure, isolated humps, and it presents a great opportunity for people to get out and take advantage of that setup thermocline. You know, the lake trout have finally left the shallow water. They're correlating to deeper structure and steep breaks where they can find that nice thermocline. Typically, 60 to 80 feet of water is best at this time of year, but sometimes we might be jigging in even 90 to 120. Don't be surprised when you stumble into some salmon, because all of our salmon are moving up north now. You know, ports like Ludington, Manistee, Frankfort, and even parts of Grand Traverse Bay are seeing good numbers of salmon. For the guys trolling, it's a great opportunity to get a mixed bag, but also if you'd like to try to target some salmon while vertical jigging, jump up to a 2-ounce jig and give it a go. You'll have great success on light tackle and establish some great memories.
Yes, we are finally in July, and a lot of the summer patterns in our region are finally starting to materialize. Now don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we have cool products and the technique of the week as Angling Buzz continues.
Many things have been said about rough waters, but few things have been said about a smooth ride. The revolutionary Smooth Moves Ultra is a mechanical suspension system that features a 4-spring design and a hydraulic shock, providing the most comfortable and durable ride on the market. Through passion, tenacity, and the right equipment, you can overcome even the roughest waters.
Sportsmen, we're truck people. We're gear people. We're Radco people. Top brands like Lear, Access, WeatherTech, Kurtz, and more. Price match guarantee. Exceptional service. Professional installation. Researched, tested, approved. Radco. When your truck looks good, you look good.
Looking for the perfect fishing vacation? Leech Lake, Minnesota. There's over 112,000 acres of water to explore, with fantastic walleye, bass, pike, panfish, and trophy muskies. The fishing opportunities are endless. Leech Lake has it all, with over 30 resorts, lodges, campgrounds, and hotels line its pristine shores. Plan your trip. It's Minnesota's original up-north vacation destination.
You have a choice, turf or surf. It's fishing season. Welcome to the outdoors. We're baiting, casting, drifting, and limiting out. The outdoors never felt so good. Catch, release, and keepers. The outdoors never tasted so good. It's fishing season. We are outdoors. Mills Fleet Farm.
And right now it's time for our cool products brought to you by Fleet Farm. We're going to start over here from Yum. These are great for fishing bass. I like to fish these weedless just on a wide gap hook. Pink for smallmouth bass. Works really great. Breaking shad from Yum. And another soft plastic bait, this one from Z-Man. These work really good on a Ned rig, kind of a small little compact creature bait. This is the 10 times tough Elastic. The stuff stretches out, it lasts a long time. Check it out from Z-Man. And up next, the Switchblade Spoon from Wahoo. You can see it has a few different line ties on the top of it. This is an old school bait, but absolutely works great when you're talking about current, you're trying to cover water with it, jigging it off the bottom, really nice. And also for jigging off the bottom from Rapala the Flat Jig. Now this is different than the Jig and Wrap. A little bit different design. It has a little bit different action. I've used this in fast current and really deep water. It sinks really fast, has a very quick action. The Flat Jig from Rapala. And also from Rapala, the Shad Dancer. Now you can see here the lip design relative to the body. This thing has a lot of action, small, compact, but it gets down deep and has a lot of great action. This is a new bait from Rapala, the Shad Dancer. And from Bagley, this is kind of an all-in-one kit if you want to have a few different sizes, all in one, really handy. These are all great balsa baits from Bagley. This is the classic kit. And from Northland Tackle, the Slick Stick. This is really handy. You can see the line goes up here. This is a great bottom bouncer, stainless steel bottom bouncer, so you can attach this to your line. So you can actually change the weights without having to retie. It's very, very handy. The Slick Stick from Northland Tackle. Also from Northland Tackle, the Pro Walleye Floatin' Crawler Harness. Now this is nice if you do pull for walleye, which I'm sure a lot of you watching do. It comes in a lot of different colors. Check that out from Northland Tackle. And from Offshore Tackle, the Pro Weight System. This would be great like if you're using something about this size, like a Shad Dancer, to get it down deep. These different weights, you just tie your line to that, and then off the back, you run your bait off the back. A lot of different weights inside here. The Pro Weight System from Offshore Tackle. And from Minn Kota, right here, the Micro Remote. You can speed it up, you can spot lock, you can turn with this as well. So it's a nice little compact remote. The Micro Remote, it works with the iPilot and the iPilot Link. This is from Minn Kota. And we're talking about trolling big water. Here's a great combination. These are sold separately. This is the St. Croix Walleye Trolling Series. These actually come in a few different sizes. The smallest is 5 feet all the way up to 10 feet. And pairing it with this Daiwa Sea Line. This is a nice, reasonably priced reel. Has a line counter on there. This retails right around $100. This is a great combination for trolling from Daiwa and St. Croix rods. And a great seat to save your back is from Smooth Moves. The Smooth Moves Ultra, this is an absolute back saver when you're talking about big water. It has a great suspension and cushion system inside here. Adjusts, it swivels, and adjusts your weight. Is fantastic. Check it out from Smooth Moves, the Smooth Moves Ultra. Be sure to stop by your local Mills Fleet Farm store. You can also shop online at fleetfarm.com. And lastly, we can get some cooler mornings, cooler evenings from Blackfish, the Gale pullover. Lightweight, wind resistant, water resistant, nice pockets on the front. Check that out from Blackfish. Right now, it's time for our technique of the week. Speed is extremely critical when you're catching fish, many times more critical than color choice. Right here, one of the slowest presentations you can use for bass, a wacky rig. And what I have here on the deck of the boat are different presentations that you can fish both fast and slow. I have a swim bait, a jig, a jerkbait, a deep shadow, and these are presentations that you can fish like the shadow wrap. You can burn that, you can fish that very aggressive. Same thing with the swim bait. You can fish the swim bait up high, you can burn it in really fast. You can also crawl the bottom with it. And the same thing with the jig. The jig, you can crawl over rocks, through weeds. You can also burn it across the bottom, just hitting the rocks really, really fast. So the important thing to remember is if the fish aren't biting, many times people think it's just changing the colors. One of the biggest things you can do is actually experiment with speeds, fishing extremely fast and extremely slow, and these are presentations that you can do exactly that. When you think of all the different species, you know, this doesn't, oh, that's a big one. This doesn't apply to just bass. I mean, the speed factors apply both, you know, largemouth, smallmouth, muskies, pike, even panfish. There we go. So changing slow to fast can make a big difference, catching all different kinds of fish.
That was really, really good, Troy. You know, one thing that I've noticed in my fishing is once you figure out the right speed, it's like turning on the light switch.
Yes, it is. It's amazing slowing down or speeding up and what that does to make fish bite.
Yep, no doubt about it. And make sure to tune in for next week's show because we're going to be talking about the traveling angler.
Oh, it's going to be great next week, especially if you're a shore fisherman. Hey, we want to remind you, as always, to help stop the spread of aquatic invasive species. Anytime you leave any body of water, clean, drain, dry.
And don't forget to check us out online at AnglingBuzz.com for the latest in fishing information from our region.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Troy Lindner.
And I'm Nick Lindner. We will see you next week.
This week's Buzz Bite Report.
Tony Rhodes.
Ray Brostow.
Lee Telkin here.
Brad Durick up here on the Red River.
Muskegon River.
Leech Lake.
Devil's Lake.
Beautiful Lake Vermilion.
Topwater's been really, really fun.
Good luck, everybody.
Have fun.
We'll see you next week.